the most precise images ever observed in relation to the third interstellar object, 3 Atlas, captured by the ESA, the European Space Agency, are now visible to us. But strange things are occurring within our own solar system. 3 Atlas's path. Passed just 9 from the source of the well-known WOW signal discovered in 1977. Could this be a coincidence? Or something that had already been planned long before we ever knew it existed? Its conduct is breaking the laws of physics in the way that we understand them. And just like the world is looking for answers, the most powerful space agency on Earth, NASA, has suddenly gone silent. What are they hiding? Also, why now? It started with a moment of silence that seemed to weigh more than usual. For months, the world had followed the mysterious interstellar object 3 Atlas racing through our solar system. The majority of what we knew was from NASA. Their telescopes had first confirmed the strange speed of the object and its hyperbolic path, evidence that it originated outside of our solar system. The James Webb Space Telescope looked at the light spectrum, identifying traces of water vapor and carbon dioxide long before it ever got close to the sun. NASA's initial reports described it as unlike any comet or asteroid ever observed. Then, all of the updates abruptly stopped. On October 7, 2025, while NASA's data channels went dark, the European Space Agency stepped forward. ESA released the clearest photos ever captured of 3 Atlas, taken not by deep space telescopes, but by the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter and Mars Express, 2 probes orbiting Mars that had never been meant for this kind of observation. To capture the object, engineers pushed their instruments beyond design limits, modifying software, increasing exposure times, and changing the way their communication systems targeted detection over 100,000 times dimmer than their usual focus. When the first picture showed up, it stunned the control room. It showed a faint sphere of light surrounded by a misty halo that shimmered against the spaceless blackness. The object didn't reflect sunlight like a comet. It shone softly, as if something inside it was alive. ESA released the photo to the public within hours, describing it as an unexpected pattern of light behavior. At the same instant, NASA went completely silent. The high-resolution camera of the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, capable of the sharpest planetary images ever made, then abruptly stopped transmitting data. No new updates appeared on channels run by NASA. No explanation was provided. The shutdown of the U.S. government was the reason given, but the timing raised eyebrows everywhere. The general public saw it as the collision of 2 worlds. On the one hand, ESA, open and transparent, sharing every image and every calibration file. On the other, NASA, dark, silent, and unreachable. The mystery was given to the world by a company that shut its doors. Even more curious was what NASA had last displayed before it went dark. Days previously, the Perseverance rover had captured a faint streak across the Martian sky, believed to be 3 Atlas during its approach. NASA verified the sighting, but never released the high-resolution version. It was said that the high-res camera could have captured the object with a clarity unmatched by any other camera in the solar system. Yet when NASA's feed froze mid-update, ESA's images appeared. ESA, meanwhile, invited the world in. They published the raw data and even encouraged citizen scientists to process the images. Yet hidden inside ESA's data was something with no explanation. 3 Atlas wasn't random at all, and its planet-to-planet alignment appeared deliberate. When astronomers mapped the anticipated orbit of 3 Atlas, they expected chaos. An object arriving from another star system ought to have entered the neighborhood of the Sun at a random angle. Instead, what they discovered left even the most knowledgeable scientists speechless. The path of 3 Atlas was almost perfectly aligned with the ecliptic plane, the flat disk on which all the planets orbit the Sun. Its tilt was only 4.89 degrees, such a sizable disparity that it had less than a 1% chance of happening by coincidence. No other interstellar object, not even Oumuamua or Borisov, had previously traveled that route. That was only the beginning of the mystery. As information arrived from numerous observatories, a different pattern appeared. The object had passed near the only 3 planets, Jupiter, Venus, and Mars that were ideal for observation at that exact time. It wasn't just close, it was almost surgical in the timing. When Mars was close enough to Earth for ESA's orbiters to observe, 3 Atlas swept by within 18.6 million miles. Weeks later, it approached Venus at the best viewing angle for Earth-based telescopes, and by the end of October, the immense gravity of Jupiter lined up perfectly to give a potential slingshot trajectory toward the Sun. To many, it looked like a cosmic coincidence. To others, it felt planned. One researcher referred to it as the ideal flyby. The more scientists looked at the path, the more questions surfaced. If 3 Atlas had entered from deep interstellar space, how did it accomplish this exactly compatible with the solar system's geometry? And why did it cross the planetary plane at the exact moment our most advanced probes were able to see it? Some experts pointed to gravitational dynamics. Small nudges from passing stars or galactic dust could alter an orbit over millions of years. However, even that failed to explain the accuracy. Simulations showed that for 3 Atlas to appear exactly where it did, the odds were less than 1 in 10,000. A few theorists quietly began to ask whether the alignment might not be an accident at all. The public reaction grew louder once ESA's data became open source. Online forums filled with visual representations of the orbit, illustrating as if the planets were separated by perfect lines following a pre-programmed route. Headlines called it the most suspicious path in contemporary astronomy. Even so, with every new observation, the mystery only deepened. Because 3 Atlas wasn't just moving precisely, it was accelerating. That acceleration would soon reveal even stranger behavior, changes in composition, light, and speed that no comet or asteroid could mimic. Beginning with the initial comprehensive data, the behavior of 3 Atlas began to challenge everything we thought we knew about comets. Scientists estimated the nucleus of 3 Atlas to be somewhere between approximately 320 meters and 5.6 kilometers across. Based on pictures captured by the Hubble Space Telescope from July 2025, that size alone would make this interstellar visitor far larger than many known comets. Yet it became even more bizarre when researchers incorporated motion with size. Despite clearly releasing gas and dust, 3 Atlas scarcely revealed any wobble or thrust we would expect from an outgassing body. In a typical comet, vapor jets behave like tiny rocket thrusters, nudging the nucleus a little off course. The implied acceleration was so insignificant that scientists calculated the mass must be immense enough to resist those forces, pointing to a mass estimate of 33 billion or more tons. Even more bizarre was the way it reflected light. Polarimetric data showed 3 Atlas had an extreme negative polarization branch reaching a minimum of 2.77% at a phase angle of approximately 6 degrees to 7 degrees. This feature is unprecedented in comets, observed in our solar system, and implies its dust or ice grains are shaped or composed in a way unlike any known object, and the chemistry betrayed oddities too. Spectroscopic observations found that the object contained a relative abundance of CO2 early in its journey, and noticeable water ice grains, even when greater than 6 astronomical units away, far from the Sun, colder and darker than typical comet territory. It also lacked iron where we'd expect it, and showed dust grains behaving more like those in trans-Neptunian objects rather than traditional comets. In short, it looked like a comet, but did not behave as one. The combination of size, mass, light, reflection patterns, and composition forced many researchers to ask, is this simply a strange natural body or another type of body entirely? One astrophysicist described the object as a record breaker in every sense because it outmasses previous interstellar objects by orders of magnitude and yet behaves more like a spacecraft than a snowball of ice and rock. Of course, the predominant view remains it's natural, just extremely unusual. However, even among scientists, the word unexplained keeps coming up. And as 3 Atlas continues its journey toward perihelion, the gap between expectation and reality only widens. Are we witnessing a new class of interstellar visitor? Or is this object simply altering the guidelines for how comets form and move? Next, we'll look at a connection that is so bizarre it feels almost cinematic, the link between 3 Atlas and the well-known 1977 WOW signal. When astronomers mapped 3 Atlas's trajectory, one aspect stood out right away. Its point of entry into the solar system was just 9 degrees from the source of the renowned WOW signal that was found in 1977. That signal, a mysterious 72-second burst of radio energy, came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. It was so potent and crystal clear that researcher Jerry Amon circled it on a printout and wrote one word beside it: wow. It was never heard from again. For nearly 50 years, scientists debated whether it came from a passing satellite, a comet, or something beyond human technology. But none of the explanations fit. The signal came from a location without known objects and disappeared before it could be confirmed. Now, an interstellar object entered almost identically from that point in the heavens. And unlike any known comet, it behaved with timing and precision that appeared too flawless to ignore. Some researchers quickly dismissed the idea, saying comet chemistry and radio noise could mimic such readings. However, others claimed the pattern was too specific. The WOW signal had matched a frequency that hydrogen naturally absorbs and emits, often called the universal calling card of intelligent life. If a civilization wanted to be found, that's where they would communicate. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb suggested a thought-provoking angle. What if messages sent across the stars are rare? Not sound or code, but as objects. Objects that travel, display anomalies, and carry meaning through motion itself. If 3 Atlas were such a message, its near-perfect alignment and distinctive light behavior could be the language. Public fascination took off. Online forums filled with comparisons between the two events, their coordinates almost overlapping on star charts. Some called it the signal's return. Others saw it as a cosmic rhyme instead of a pattern. Still, one fact remained. Both the 1977 WOW signal and the 2025 appearance of 3 Atlas came from almost the same corner of the galaxy. Both showing signs no natural process could completely explain. Whether coincidence or connection, the echo between them reignited one of astronomy's oldest questions. Are we really alone? Or has someone been trying to reach us all along? After the strange link between 3 Atlas and the WOW signal, scientists started searching for a deeper answer. Some began to think that maybe this object wasn't just trying to communicate. Perhaps it was trying to create. This idea is known as the planetary seed theory, and it completely altered people's perceptions of 3 Atlas. The theory says that life in the universe might spread from one world to another, traversing space. Pieces of rock, seeds of life made of ice or dust, could travel through the stars carrying the ingredients needed to start new worlds. These seeds might hold frozen microbes, chemical atoms, or even the building blocks of DNA. If one of them landed on a young planet with the right conditions, it could spark a brand new biosphere. When astronomers looked again at the 3 Atlas data, they noticed details that fit this theory almost perfectly. The first clue came from its chemical makeup. Spectral measurements revealed an abundance of organic water ice, carbon, and methane, all important materials for life. Still more, it had a surprising amount of complex hydrocarbons, which typically form after prolonged exposure to cosmic rays. That meant this object had likely been traveling for millions of years through deep space, preserving its chemical layers like a time capsule frozen in time. Then came the second clue, how it behaved close to the sun. Most comets start breaking apart when heated. But 3 Atlas didn't. Instead, it released smooth, rhythmic bursts of gas, almost like a slow heartbeat. Each tiny burst spread water and carbon-rich particles into space, forming a thin, balanced cloud. It didn't look like it was falling apart, more like a spreading phenomenon of life. Computer models later confirmed that this pattern could help microscopic particles travel incredible distances, exactly what a seed object would need to plant life on distant worlds. Those in favor of the idea pointed to what already occurs within our solar system. Meteorites from Mars have been discovered on Earth, and some even seem to contain ancient microbial fossils. If life can travel between planets here, why could it not occur on a much larger scale, between different star systems? In 2023, a European astrobiology study demonstrated that bacteria can persist for tens of thousands of years, suspended in space in complete darkness. That discovery gave the seed theory new strength. It meant that 3 Atlas may actually be part of a natural, or perhaps even designed, process that carries the elements of life across cultures. Still, not everyone agreed. Skeptics stated that seed need not necessarily mean scent. They believed the object could simply be debris ejection from an ancient collision, unintentional and random. But others thought the details were too precise to be accidental. When researchers traced its path backward, they found that 3 Atlas may have come from the habitable zone of another star, possibly Kepler 452, an established system with Earth-like planets. If true, that meant this visitor had traveled billions of miles across interstellar space, carrying the chemistry of life from another world. If 3 Atlas contains prebiotic material, then it's possible that life is not unique to Earth. It might be part of a much larger story, one where living worlds are connected rather than isolated. And that completely changes the question. Maybe the real mystery isn't just where 3 Atlas came from. Maybe it's why it came now. Because as telescopes kept watch on its glowing trail, something new appeared. The light of 3 Atlas started pulsing in even intervals, slow, intentional, and impossible to overlook. Was it responding to us or the sun? That was the unsolved mystery scientists faced next. Beginning in October 2025, 3 Atlas had gotten so close to Mars that it entered the planet's orbital path. Mars's gravity did not capture it, but its approach, just under 19 million miles away, gave astronomers something they had never experienced before: a passing interstellar visitor through an ideal window for direct observation. Telescopes on Earth had struggled for weeks to track the object. Its faint glow was often drowned by background stars. But around Mars, things changed. ESA's ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter and Mars Express were already circling the planet, and their location turned out to be ideal. At that instant, Mars lay between 3 Atlas and the Sun, giving both orbiters a glare-free perspective into the night. Engineers quickly reprogrammed the orbiter's cameras to chase this faint target. ExoMars' exposure time was extended far beyond what it typically uses for studying Martian dust storms, stacking multiple images to build brightness. A faint white dot was visible in each frame, surrounded by a gentle fog, the first clear images of 3 Atlas from another planet's orbit. Then came Mars Express, which used its visual monitoring camera to confirm the sighting. Even though the object was over 100,000 times dimmer than the surface of Mars, the probe captured a glowing core with a faint tail stretching outward. The data matched what ground telescopes on Earth were seeing, proving that the object was releasing gas and dust in pulses rather than random bursts. For researchers, this was a pivotal moment. The Mars orbiters became the closest human instruments ever to record an interstellar object at work. They could study its brightness, track its velocity, and even analyze the chemical characteristics of the gases released. This unique vantage point allowed researchers to investigate how such objects behave when passing near a planet, something never done before. ESA later confirmed that 3 Atlas perfectly maintained its course after the pass-by. It didn't slow down or alter direction, a sign that its mass and structure were far more stable than any known comet. The event was referred to as a once-in-a-century opportunity, a perfect alignment between a passing traveler from another star and the technology orbiting Mars. As 3 Atlas continued its journey toward the sun, the data from Mars told a deeper story. Its light flickered with precision, and its trail carried more carbon compounds than anyone expected. Watched from 2 worlds, it was clear this was no ordinary comet. What exactly was it preparing to show us next? When ESA made its images and open data available, the response came right away. Across every major observatory on Earth, the race to study 3 Atlas began. It was no longer just a visitor from another star. It had become the most watched object in contemporary astronomy. Attention stayed on Mars. Both ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter and Mars Express continued to track the object as it moved further into the inner solar system. The pictures they took revealed faint changes in the color and brightness of the coma, signs that something inside was shifting. Each transmission from Mars was processed in near real time, and for the first time in history, the European Space Agency opened raw telemetry data to the public. Meanwhile, on Earth, the James Webb Space Telescope redirected its instruments toward 3 Atlas. It documented light curves that demonstrated repeating flashes every 11 hours, suggesting the object was rotating with a rhythm similar to a heartbeat. NASA scientists confirmed the data, but offered no public explanation. It was the first acknowledgement from the agency since its silence began weeks earlier. Quickly, other nations joined. China's Tianwen-1 probe caught sight of 3 Atlas as it neared Mars, confirming the same light flashes. The UAE's Hope orbiter also gathered data, providing valuable infrared measurements of the surrounding gas. For the first time, cooperation between rival space agencies became impossible to avoid. Every country wanted to understand what 3 Atlas actually was. By the end of October, the European Southern Observatory and Chile's ALMA reported a new discovery. Radio emissions from the object were not random. Instead, they pulsed at regular intervals that echoed the same 11-hour pattern discovered earlier. This led some researchers to wonder if the emissions were a form of natural resonance, or synchronization.